Welcome, everyone. This is Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Rearden, and I will be your mindset coach today. And today we're going to be talking about performance. Are you showing up in your day? Are you making every single moment of your day profound? For some people, that is the case. They're giving every bit of their energy every single day. Yet some people, they have some reserve left. They're keeping some in the tank just in case, and that's what the brain loves to do. I'm going to keep some energy. I'm going to conserve some energy just in case I need it. Well, ask yourself, when's the last time you were in danger, where you had fight or flight kick in and you had to use all this pent up energy? Probably can't think of it. Now, I'm sure there's going to be individuals, especially if you're in high school and you're being bullied, right? That right there is going to trigger your fight and flight. However, just because it triggers it, it doesn't mean you take action, because there's another aspect to it: freeze. So most of us who are going to have that moment where they can take immediate action, where they can fight or run, they freeze. So they just allow what's happening. Maybe they go home, they're upset, they cry, they think about it, they ruminate on those emotions. Yet there is another option for us there. We take action. We don't allow the world to push us anymore. We don't allow our mindset to remain simply static. We continually challenge it. We continually ask the questions that are going to move us into the right direction. And it's so important that we have some direction. And today I'm going to be bringing on a performance coach, Mitch Hankins, who's going to be helping us how to understand ourselves and how to get into the performance mindset that we need to not allow fear to rule our life, and to allow courage to be present in all of our actions and all of our thinking, all of our movements, in all of our days. Because if we can have just a fraction more courage and we can challenge ourselves, imagine what can happen in our life. So let's get into that interview with Mitch and myself. Welcome, Mitch Hankins, to Coaching in Session. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great. It's so good to be here. I'm doing absolutely wonderful, and really looking forward to having a conversation with you.
All right, sounds good. I know we had a little scheduling mishap, but today is our day and we're going to get this done. Today I have you on as a performance coach. So we're going to be talking about the work that you do. I always know when we give the introductions, there's always the vaguest, most possible term we can give someone. You're a performance coach, and then someone's like, well, what does a performance coach do? And that is where you shine, right? This is where you're going to have your moment to tell the world who you are, what you do, and how you help them.
I love that. Yeah. So I think the best way I can describe that is by giving a specific example. So for example, I have a client who wanted to become a software engineer. As you can imagine, it's quite difficult to just pick that up. You don't just read some documentation and become a software engineer. It comes with a mindset. It comes with a certain grit. It comes with a lot of having to learn skills to manage your negative self-talk. And so the way I helped him is not just by pointing him to the technologies and the tools that he should learn, but also how to handle himself mentally so that he doesn't get so down on himself that he starts hating himself and that he starts doubting himself and that it affects his personal life. And so the change I saw in that specific client is him getting a software engineering job, growing his community, going into a relationship, and just having an overall personal better life. So I think that's kind of a good example of what I do. It really revolves around getting people to embrace their full potential.
Why do you believe that people have this low self-esteem about themselves, where they are trying to go for something in their life and maybe they have all these self-doubts, they have all of these obstacles that they give themselves, like, oh no, this is too hard, I can't do it. They look at the negative side rather than the positive side.
You know, I think that's rooted in two reasons. The most deeply rooted issue is how our brains operate, which is that we do more to move away from pain than we do to move towards pleasure. And so if we let our brains be lazy, because that's what it wants to do, it wants to conserve energy, it will move towards fear, and it will attempt to get us to stay away from whatever we fear, even though if we conquer that fear, the payoff may be better. And so we really have to get a clear why on why we want to do something and attach an emotional meaning to that in order to overwrite that fear. And the second aspect of it, which relates to that fear, is societal pressure, societal having to conform. My message to that is, find the courage to be you and believe in yourself, and really, as cliche as it sounds, unlocking the power within you.
Yeah. Tony Robbins says, what, the giant within you.
Yeah.
And we all have that person. We all have that person who can be something. We all have the human potential, is what I call it. It's just we all have that within us. It's hard to allow that to come out because it's scary. It takes a lot of energy. The brain wants to conserve energy, as you said. And we don't know what we're going to get because that fear of failure, because you might put everything you have into a business, everything you have into a relationship, and you come out on the other end without the win, without the W. Just that fear alone of that negativity at the end, it shouldn't outweigh the positive. What would happen? What if you succeeded? What if you won? That right there should always be bigger. Yet the small, minuscule fear reigns supreme in everyone's mind. It is a society thing, right? When we're looking at society, we have more people who will remain complacent, remain still and docile, rather than going out, testing the waters, and then really implementing themselves every single day. Can we talk about that and then talk about how you help people show up in their life?
Oh man, you're giving me goosebumps. You're speaking straight to the heart. My answer to that would be, we have this concept of self-improvement as becoming more, adding more. In reality, ever since we're kids, we get all these messages, whether they're subconscious or not, between the lines or not, like, you aren't good enough. You aren't worthy of love. My love is conditional. You're a good boy if you do this. You're a bad girl if you do that. And so we learn to build up all these layers around us. And to me, self-improvement just means going within, introspection, and wondering if those layers are serving you and removing them. For me, self-improvement isn't adding, it's taking away those lies and going to first principles and building up from there. And so when it comes to fear and societal pressures, the irony is that even though those societal pressures are rooted in fear and it feels real, they aren't real. Like, they're things you tell yourself, and they're only real if you believe them to be true. Like, whatever you believe is true. So you might as well replace it with layers or beliefs or rules, however you want to call it, that serves you. And the way I really do that with people is first creating awareness. It's, if people don't understand why they believe something, then it's hard to change it. So the first step is awareness. Like, what's the problem? Like, what kind of pain is it causing? Then once that pain is associated with that layer or that behavior, that belief, the next step is really replacing that, because nature abhors vacuums, right? So you want to replace it. So, to give you a concrete example, it might be, one of my typical one for clients is, I'm just not good at this. Or, like, for example, for programming. And then it's kind of like, well, why do you believe that? And a lot of times it's rooted in, well, in school, like, unless I did perfectly, unless I got an A, unless this, unless that, I didn't feel good about myself. I wasn't rewarded by my community, by my parents, by the people around me. And so then it kind of becomes like, okay, now I have that awareness about why I'm feeling bad about myself. And then it's replacing that with a new way to measure that. For example, what kind of progress have I made? Or what are my goals, and how far along am I? And once you replace something that doesn't serve you with something that does serve you, transformations really start to happen. And that's, once people make that click, I'm sure you've seen this as well, people just start changing, and all of a sudden they become more autonomous, they become more motivated. At that point, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, I love the idea about just removing the layers, because we give ourselves negative layers, right? We are victims because of our circumstances. So, something that might happen when you're younger, maybe you have abusive parents, unloving parents, maybe there was some substance abuse, alcohol, and you see that as an opportunity to say, well, my dad was alcoholic, he didn't love me, I can't be loved. That layer right there is not helping you, right? Yes, it was your circumstance, it was your life growing up, that was your past, but that does not have to mean that's your present. And it doesn't mean that has to be your future. So many people get stuck in the past, and they're like, okay, well, I'm just living in the past, when the present is waiting for you and the future is just right around the corner. And we always say we're going to do it later. We're always going to do it tomorrow. We're going to do it next year, right? We get that mentality of we have that time. We should take some time to really understand what we grew up with, right? Creating that awareness, as you said, Because once we create that awareness, what starts to happen is, okay, we start to dismantle all of the things that are not good in our life, meaning that they're not benefiting us. So a victim mentality, that doesn't benefit you. I'm sure you can't even think of an area where a victim mentality will benefit someone positively. So like we have to look at that, right? What areas of your life are not benefiting you? And then start to detract from that and just take away layer by layer. It's not an easy process because sometimes we just go back into our past, we see all the negativity, we get scared, and we don't want to take action. How do you encourage people to go into their, I guess you can say, dirty basket of laundry, go into that dark corner where they've been throwing all their garbage and all of their problems and start to clean the slate and create a new area that's going to be able to launch them to the people that they're supposed to be, rather than the people that they are because they feel stuck or bogged down by all the negativities and weights that they have given themselves?
I would say in one word, courage, and to segue into that, like to add to your point, a lot of what you're just saying, I think comes down to ownership. I practice radical honesty. That comes partially from my heritage. I'm Dutch. I grew up in the Netherlands. We're very direct like Germans. We say what we mean and we do what we say. Second, it comes from personal life experience. And I want to share this because I want to show like, no matter how bad your situation is, anybody can do this. I was diagnosed with complex PTSD in my early 20s. I suffered sexual abuse as a child, physical abuse as a teenager, and pretty much every other type of abuse you can imagine, even though I did have a great family and supportive environment. For obviously many years, that caused a great deal of issues. Like I was in the victim mentality. I had beliefs such as I am not worthy of love, or I am simply something to be used. And it wasn't until I started taking ownership, right? Responsibility. Once I got myself out of that victim mindset, I wouldn't even describe myself anymore as a sexual assault victim. I would say I'm a sexual assault survivor, right? Because that changes my story. That lets me take ownership. Having taken that ownership, I no longer have those beliefs. When I repeat those beliefs to myself now, I kind of have to laugh a little bit because I'm like, it's funny, I used to believe that, and now I'm past that. And the word I mentioned earlier, courage, America has this very, especially America has this very, I want to say, perverted definition of courage. We watch movies. I'm thinking specifically of that Will Smith movie where he was like, it's in the future, sci-fi. He has a son. There's aliens who smell humans as fear, and that's how they find them or something like that. And Will Smith is a super soldier because he doesn't have fear. And so he can kill all the aliens. And that's really the perception that Americans and a lot of people in Western society have about courage, which is, to them, it's not having fear. In reality, courage is the ability to persevere in spite of feeling fear. If you do something that you're not afraid of, that's not courageous. That's just doing something. To answer your question, is the way you move beyond these things is finding the courage to do these things. And again, the only way to do that is by introspection. It's by associating pain and replacing that pain with pleasure. So my example, the beliefs I had caused me pain because I was lonely, isolated. I didn't have romantic partners. I didn't have close friends. And I associated pain with that. And then I replace it with pleasure because now I can be fully vulnerable. I have a thriving community. If I were on a deathbed tomorrow, I have no regrets. That is all because of courage.
Yeah, courage is going to be essential if you want to make it in life, like really, truly make a difference in your life. And a lot of people have lofty goals for where they want to be. They want the house, the cars, the notoriety, whatever. They want everything. That is just something that they give themselves. Yet they're not courageous. They don't take the actions to do it, right? Starting a business, right? Leaving a secure 9-to-5 job, maybe a 6-figure job, to start a new career in coaching and personal development, helping people, right? That act of service there. It's a scary thing because not many people are going to succeed. And it's not so much that they don't have the capabilities. It's just that their mental fortitude to persist through the negativity, through the hardships, is not there yet. And so the fact that it gets hard, the fact that it gets dicey, we run back to comfortable. We run back to something that we know that is so familiar. And again, comfort feels good. I'm not going to lie. If you can just not challenge yourself every single day, you go to work, you get your paycheck, you pay your bills, you live a decent life. There's no shame in that. I want people to know there is no shame to live a complacent life. But for the people who are dreamers, for the people who want more from themselves, How do we do that, right? We challenge ourselves. We have the courage, and the courage doesn't come first. It comes after.
Yes,
We take
that's
the
such a
step.
good point.
Yeah, we take the steps. You see a girl at the bar, right? Maybe you want to start a family, right? That's in the back of your mind. You're not going to start a family if you never talk to her. So you have to have that courage, risk failure. But then on the other side, right, we have something good that can happen, right? We can create that family that you were looking for. But there is that aspect of rejection, right? You could get rejected, but then right there, you have to ask yourself, when you get rejected, two things are going to happen. You never want to talk to another girl again, or you say she wasn't the one for me, right? One is more powerful than the other, right? And it's not the positive one. Negativity wins. The negative thought is going to be more powerful in our brain. Our brain is attracted, it loves negative. And as long as we allow the negativities to reign supreme in our life of, oh, no girl's gonna like me, I'll never start a family, that's gonna become your reality. We have to look at the positive and we have to make that more powerful than the negativities that we have. What's your take on making positivities more prominent and potent than negativities?
Emotion. To me, emotion stands for energy and motion. You notice this, for example, if you suppress emotions, that they typically only come back stronger. It's like Medusa. You cut it off and it just grows five new heads. Same with emotions. Like we all have had that with anger, with lust. If you want to replace negativity with positivity, you have to assign emotion to the positivity that is of greater quantity or greater influence than that of the pain, than that of the fear. And I really loved what you said. The mind is absolutely attracted to negativity because the brain's primary directive is to keep you safe. Because if you think about it, the human species is hundreds of thousands of years old. I think over 200,000 years old. We are the descendants of the descendants of the descendants of the descendants of the people that had the most stress, that kept themselves the most safe. So for dozens and dozens of generations, these genes have been passed on. And so our brains are attracted to negativity because it wants to give us a life. It wants us to procreate. It wants us to live. That is, I think, the rational explanation for why there's fear. Of course, there's a lot in modern society that feeds into that, like FOMO, because of the gamification of social media, where, these billion-dollar companies are doing everything that they can to keep your face glued to the screen. And, that feeds that fear. But again, step one is awareness. Why am I feeling fear? Or even like, oh, I'm feeling fear, like why? And then step two is replacing that fear. And, a concrete example, if you're talking to someone at a bar, or if you want to talk to someone at a bar, the negative thought would be like, oh, I will never try to flirt with someone again if I get rejected. And the positive thought can be, well, I stand a chance. And if I do get rejected, then I will simply be better prepared for the next time. And if you adopt that second mindset, the irony is that you will come to crave rejection. Of course, that's not meant in a creepy way, but at some point you start craving it because you can handle it and you know how exciting it is when it does pay off. It's a little bit like jumping off a cliff. It's the fear, it's the excitement that really makes it worth it, right? And so you have to realize that wanting to flirt with someone at the bar, those emotions you're calling negative can be seen as positive because they are really what make the experience worth it. And so I think to really answer your question, what do you do is to manage your negative self-talk. So you tune out the negative thoughts. You can't stop your mind from thinking, but you can choose your relationship to those thoughts. There's the being and the mind. The mind is that which has been formed by society. It's that which talks to you in your head. But the being is the one that's observing those thoughts. And you are not your mind, you are the being. And so when you hear those thoughts, change your relationship to them and choose the ones that come with good emotions.
You said something great. When we look back 100, 200,000 years ago, they had so much stress, right? They were worried about where their meal was coming. They had to worry about someone was going to come and, kill them from the bushes or something. We can go down the laundry list of what a human needs in order to feel safe and secure. But today we have all of those met, right? We live in houses. Our houses have ACs and they have heat. We have grocery stores we can just go get our food from. We can apply for a job, get a job, readily. I mean, it might not be your dream job, but we can get a job to get money to procure food if you wanted to go that way, unless you want to grow your own food. So we have so many options when it comes to our survival and having the stresses that we didn't have 100, 200,000 years ago. Yet today, we give ourselves so much unnecessary stress. Oh, I got a new notification. I got to answer it. Oh, they didn't like my picture. Oh, this outfit I wore 2 times already. I can't wear it again. I got to go buy another outfit. Oh, I have one generation older of the iPhone. Oh, like people at school don't like me because I'm too tall or my hair is too curly. I mean, there's just so much that we give
Yes.
ourselves.
Yes.
We have went from having stress for survival to having stress to be relevant. There's an issue there because we have all the basic needs met for what we need in order to survive. Yet our brain has just said, well, let's give us more problems. How can we start to rewire our brain to not start to look at all the worldly issues, societal issues that keep us in that negative wavelength of, I have all the stress, I have all these problems, woe me, my life is this, because it stops us from what you do, right? Your performance coach, helping people perform. If we have that negativity there, it's not going to help us perform to our maximum capabilities.
Yeah, yeah, no, I love that. I love that view. I love that question. My answer would be, in a short sentence, get back to basics. And to kind of elucidate the point there, I would like the listener to like follow me on this analogy. Like imagine a car, for example. And the basic necessities that you mentioned are the engine. You can't go anywhere without it. The wheels, you can't go anywhere without that. And the extras that we have nowadays are for example, the air conditioning or the seat warmers to keep your butt warm. Things like social media, all these different things. Whereas the engine may be, well, let's say a family, a tribe, someone to make you feel like your life matters. The problem in society, and a big part of rewiring your brain, is realizing that we're getting distracted by flashy things. We are looking to get the car with the nicest butt warmer, with the most powerful AC, with a Bluetooth radio, but we're focusing on things that are temporary, that are fleeting, that are inconsequential. Like it might feel good in the moment to get like dozens, hundreds, thousands of likes on a post, but you're not going to remember that on your deathbed. So while I would agree that we do have the essentials nowadays, I would add to that we're neglecting those. So yes, we have the engine, but we're not changing the oil. Like, yes, we have the wheels, but we're not checking the tire pressure. And, excuse me if I'm beating this analogy to death, but my point is really that we're neglecting the basics. And that's why I have to get back to the basics. And the basics are things like character, and core values, like we live in a society of personality, of like, what do I have? What do I look like? What clothes do I wear? We need to get back to a culture of character. It's how do I show up to the world? What kind of effect do I have on people? Purpose is another big part. My purpose in life is to build community so that we stand strong together, because I believe that's what people are meant to do. That's why we're on this earth, to help each other out. Having a character and purpose are basics. And another big foundational pillar is community, whether that's at work or family or close friends. And I define community as somewhere where you have shared interest and there's vulnerability. Like you can have a work community or like, a wife, husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. But if you can't be fully vulnerable with them, then you're never going to feel authentically connected. And that pillar is missing, and then if the foundation isn't there, the whole building's coming down. So my long-winded answer summarized is get back to basics, such as purpose, belonging, your own character, refine those, and everything else will fall into place.
Yeah, community is big because we came from community, where we forget that we need community, we need people in order to survive. When you go to the grocery store, you didn't grow those tomatoes, you didn't pick those apples, you didn't milk that cow, but yet you're able to get those goods, right? That was someone who did that for you, right? That's a person in the world community. And we need to know that even though today, right, we don't necessarily see that where we're going to the farmer, getting the eggs, getting the milk, getting the fruits and the vegetables. We don't have that where we're going to the person who's growing it and seeing it. We just see the middleman, the grocery store. The community has to be there. Yet in our mind today, we live in a very individualistic type society. And that's our mentality. I got to do it alone. I got to go by myself. And I love the analogy with the car, right? How I broke it down was the core components to functionality, right? What do you need to function? And a car needs an engine, it needs wheels, it needs the frame, needs a steering wheel so you know where you're going. And what a coach is to that is that steering wheel, right? Helping you get into the direction that you want to be. And it's so difficult for people sometimes to say, well, I got the engine, I got the car, like I got the core components, but yet you don't have a direction. You don't have the roadmap. So maybe you're driving around aimlessly thinking you're making progress, but you're not. People, they get this notion in their head. I want to do it by myself, that individual mentality. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, right?
Love that
That
one.
saying right there, right?
Yeah.
It's been I've been saying it probably for the past like 2 months on the
Me
podcast,
too. Yeah.
because this is so true. Our world today is shifting, right? And we have to be aware of that shift, what's happening right now. Do we go alone or do we go together? And you can go so much further when you go with people. You need a coach, you need a mentor, you need someone who's going to be there to guide you, hold your feet to the flames, and challenge you every single day. Because sometimes, again, we get into that complacent zone, we get into that nonchalant way of being where we don't want to push ourselves, where we don't want to be courageous, where we don't want to go after fear. And so we stay stuck. And I know the work that you do, Mitch, helping people be more than what they are, holding them accountable is essential, because they have, again, that human potential. They have so much within them, right? They can unlock that power, that giant within them, but they need a guide. They need someone who is going to be that person that lights that flame finally. And as we begin to wrap up, I wanted to get some final words from you and to tell the audience where they can find you.
I think I really noticed that from personal experience. I am where I am today, partially because of therapy and definitely coaching. Like coaching has been, being coached has been, I would say, the biggest impact in my life. I've had dozens of coaches. I've had emotion coaches. I have had work coaches. I've had productivity coaches. I've had performance coaches. I've had reading coaches. I've had language coaches. I've had everything. I even have a coach who teaches me functional body movements. It's like physical therapy on steroids, essentially, which is changing my life. You probably see me shifting the whole time as we're talking. It's because I'm like, oh, I have to connect this and this muscle to that and that. And, coaching, if you're receptive to it, if you trust the person, will create the biggest change in your life possible. And it's all because of what you already said. So I won't repeat that. The best way for people to find me is either on social media or on my website. My website is just thedebuglife.com. Debug life is chosen because as a software engineer, debugging code means getting the errors out of it. So debugging life, getting the errors out of life. Thedebuglife.com has like my blogs. Then I'm also active on TikTok and Instagram, where I share personal stories, personal wins, personal setbacks, a lot about my dogs because they're hilarious. And that's the best way to find me.
All right, perfect. Definitely. I'll put those links in the description box below so people can easily find you, follow you, check out your dogs, and to really begin to get their life back on track. Because the process to changing your life begins with someone who's going to be there in your corner. And
Yes.
you want someone who's going to be there with you every single step of the way. You want to find someone who you trust with everything, your most intimate feelings, and you have to be able to open up. And we live in a very closed society today where my emotions are my emotions, they're not for someone else. And I encourage you to find someone who you could trust, someone where you can feel belonging to, and then you create that bond with that person, because then you're going to find that you can cultivate any type of relationship, any type of reality once you do that. And it's so important that you do it today. I want to thank you so much, Mitch, for coming on Coaching in Session. Great conversation. All right, everyone. I'd like to thank you so much for watching that interview with Mitch Hankins and myself. As you can see, he's going to be a performance coach helping people understand that they have the potential within them to reach their dreams and their goals. And we all have the potential to reach our dreams and our goals. And one of the things I want to harp on right now is I want to talk on the analogy of the car that Mitch was talking about, because it's such a good analogy, where he's saying there's going to be key components in our life that we need to focus on. Yet we don't focus on them in our life, right? So you have to have an engine in the car, and there has to be oil in that engine. But yet people don't do the maintenance on their cars, right? So there's no oil change, and then the oil gets bad, and then the engine doesn't run as smoothly. In our life, we have that engine, right? That engine could be our brain, it could be our heart, whatever you want to think of the engine in your body. What do you do each day or each week or each month or each year to make sure that your heart, your mind, your life is in the peak optimal condition? People don't even take a step back until something is broken in their life. We don't have to wait until things are broken. We can start to take immediate action. So you are unhappy with your career. You want to make some changes. You need some advice. You need to know what to do next. Don't wait until you're $100,000 in credit card debt. You're in foreclosure for your house. You just lost your car through repossession. And now you're getting a divorce because of finances are causing a strain on the relationship. That's a very severe situation, right? We allowed ourselves to not take action immediately, and it started to compound. Things started to become more problems. And the same thing is true in your life, with your body, the car analogy. If something is breaking in your car and you don't fix it, it can cause other things in the car to break. And the same thing in your life. If you don't have, I don't want to say the perfect life, but if you don't have a life that you can be happy, that every single day you wake up with purpose and you're like, yes, I have another day to create some meaning and to do more and to reach my goals or get a little bit closer to my goals or my ideals that I'm striving for. If you don't even have that, that right there is just showing you that you need some direction. You need some guidance. You need to start to become more aware of your body, of your actions, and then start to implement some changes. Because people are just going to walk through life thinking everything's okay, or they're going to walk through life and they're going to chalk everything up to circumstances. We get to define how we live life. We get to define what we get at the end of life. It might not be exactly what you want because you might want something more. Ask yourself, did you challenge yourself enough? Because we might say, well, I want a big house, but are you doing the things to get that big house? You might say you want a family, but are you doing the things to have a family? Are you doing the things to maintain a family? Are you keeping up with your body? Are you keeping up with your mind, with your dreams, your goals, your ambitions? Are you trying to catch them? Are you trying to reach them? Are you allowing fear to hold you back? We have to dare to defy what our mind is telling us sometimes. We have to dare to defy what society says we can have, because what society says we can have is not up for society to determine. It is up to us. You get to decide what you want in your life. How do you get there? How many steps is it going to take? It's an unknown answer. Some people can get success very quickly. Some people can take a lifetime. But what I can tell you, and what I can tell you is going to be appropriate for you to take action, is for you to have the courage and to put someone in your corner that's going to be there every single step of the way to give you that peace that you need, the peace that you're missing. And from there, you're going to start to make some adjustments. And those adjustments don't have to be big. It can be small victories every single day that accumulate up to the big success. If you are a marathon runner, for example, you train running a mile, 5 miles, 10 miles at a time. And then maybe toward the inception of the big race, you do the whole race so you can see your time. But you didn't just say on day one, well, I'm going to run the whole race and that's my time. You train up, you build up. And as people, that's what we have to do. We have to build ourselves up. We have to give ourselves the arsenal to fight the war of our mind, to fight the war of the worlds, and to fight our insecurities that reign rampant in our minds. We must allow our mind to see performance as its peak optimal condition. How can I perform better today? How can I perform better tomorrow? How can I perform at my peak optimal condition? Find out, figure out your core functional capabilities, what you need in order to function in your days. Make sure you have it. Make sure you have someone to do the maintenance work, and make sure that you don't give up until you finally get to the places that you want to be in your life. Because performance is something that is capable by everyone, but yet not everyone is going to perform. Don't be one of those people who choose not to perform rather than to perform. My name is Michael Rearden. I'm a mindset coach. If you have any questions, you can email me coachinginsession@gmail.com, and I'll see everyone on the next episode of Coaching in Session. Until then, everyone take care.